Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Gish Gallop Girl episode 36. This is part 10 of Candace Owens' A Shot in the Dark. The episode is subtitled My Birth Story. So, at any rate, welcome back to Gish Gallop Girl, a show where I, Thomas Anderson, listen to and fact-check alt-right media darling Candace Owens. And I'm usually joined by just my son,
Matthew Anderson.
And that is usually the draw of this show. I research shit for a couple of weeks, try hard not to tell him about it, and then we come together to record these things as he learns brutal truths and listens to absolute bullshit from Candace and friends, only a short while before the rest of you do. This week, Matthew is visiting friends in another state famous for previously being the home state of Joe Rogan. And,
Really?
yeah, with his friend's permission right now, he is on a Zoom call with me. One or both of them were probably going to be with us tonight, but they have real jobs, and they have unfortunately had to opt out. So it is what it is. Life goes on, but yeah, how's Colorado treating you?
It's honestly been pretty good so far.
Yeah.
Went to the state rent fair. That was a lot of fun.
Nice. Did you get anything weird to eat, like boar or bugs or anything like that?
I actually didn't eat anything while I was there.
The fuck? What?
I don't know.
Like,
we were there for like 4 hours, and I didn't think about it. And
how is it that, like, you didn't eat anything, and I find that more monstrous than if you had been like, yeah, I opted for like a Subway meatball sub or some shit. Jesus.
they did have something there, though, that I do regret not getting.
Yeah.
Which was steak on a stick. Which was like the fucking sirloin sliced up real nice.
Yeah.
On a stick.
I mean, but that's not... Okay, all right, look. I wouldn't have gotten that.
That's fair.
I probably would not have gotten that just because, like, I mean, that's lame. You opted, like, it's a rent fair. Goddamn, there should be, like, a fucking turkey leg or, I don't know, just, like, I mean, okay, it's Colorado. You're in a relatively, like, let's call it liberal area there right now. Were there at least any drag queens hawking wild boar?
Not hawking wild boar, but there were drag queens there.
All right, well, that's fair. Like, I mean, come on. You know? Oh, God. All right. Well, so yeah, I was going to give them some space for some code names. I couldn't think of anything, so I was going to leave it up to them, but yeah, so I have to skip the part of the script where I was going to allow their names to, like, be in and them to say hi and shit, but yeah, we're skipping all that. Let them know they missed a paragraph of good times. So yeah, we're going to try to keep everything straight here, because I didn't want us to get us, doxxed and thrown to the wolves. That's right, Noah Balk. Fuck you, buddy. For those unaware, Noah Balk of Noah Balk Law of Santa Monica, California. Oop. I just lost my video there because I didn't, like, press the button every 2 seconds. Give me a second. Okay. Noah Balk of Santa Monica, California is Candace's longtime attorney, which makes him a different sort of asshole. He has never reached out to me. I just wanted to put that there in the event that he ever thinks about it. But I have a feeling that he is a very busy motherfucker right now. It has come to my attention, because a bunch of folks alerted me to it, that Brigitte and Emmanuel Macron have sued Candace Owens.
Oh.
I had to sit on that. I couldn't tell anybody. They have sued Candace Owens because she has profited off of the lie that Brigitte is a trans woman. I have been asked to comment on this by listeners, given that this is the only podcast doing what we do, and I only have this to say on the matter. This case is new, and it could go all kinds of crazy ways. Candace is being especially stupid about how she is handling it, but I will be following it as best as I can. However, just like with her feud with Nick Fuentes, which was recent. We talked about that last week. The coverage of her entire new saga with the Macron family is going to have to wait. For one thing, these episodes only come out every 2 weeks, and it is hard to be topical in that case. 2, I don't like reporting rumors. I love reporting facts and debunking bullshit. So, that said, being in the moment, down in the mud, in that shit is not what we do here. I am sure that there will be public information on it that anyone can follow if they so choose. But I had planned on going through with her new material and her Becoming Brigitte series anyway, so the lawsuit will follow along with that, but anyone looking for that to be anytime soon is going to be sorely disappointed. This is episode 10 of a 20-part series. So yes, there are about 5 more months to go, give or take, before this series is over. Yeah.
That'll give the lawsuit plenty of time to gestate and boil and become a thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's a thing. Yeah. I have gone into every one of these episodes thinking I might be able to do a mashup of 2 episodes, maybe. But then I get in the weeds of the work, and we wind up with a single episode at a time. You know, which suits me just fine. Even if other people take up the challenge and do the thing with Macron v. Owens lawsuit, we will also get to it eventually, but that time is not now. And breathless pursuit of her noise is not our bag here at Gish Gallop Girl. That all said, if anyone wants to get a jump on everything that is in the accusation, at the top of the link stack this week is a link to the Macron v. Owens lawsuit. I got the whole thing. It is 219 pages, and it is a fascinating read. Yeah, it's a PDF, and it's pretty fucking cool. Even if you have taken the ride with us to this point, it is fascinating. Like, there's stuff in there that I wasn't aware that she got away with because I didn't follow the whole stupid Becoming Brigitte thing when we were in our like hiatus phase.
Yeah.
I kind of let that go because I was like, why is she still on this shit? Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, maybe it'll fizzle out. Well, apparently it didn't fizzle out so much as became like a full fucking lawsuit. The lawsuit, for anyone who is interested in jumping into it, maybe. Here's a little fun thing about it. The lawsuit names Candace and her husband. And it is Brigitte Macron and Emmanuel Macron suing them directly. Now, it gets even wilder. They are suing them in the Delaware courts. Candace lives in Tennessee, okay? They're suing them in Delaware because that's where her business is based. Their business for Candace Owens, LLC, whatever the fuck, it's all in the lawsuit, it's explained in the first few pages, is based in Delaware. I assume that's for tax purposes. You know, like she couldn't be bothered to put it in fucking Nashville where she calls home and she loves all the, you know, all the fucking politicians and shit. Yeah. So, that's whatever the fuck. So yeah, like I said, it's at the top of the link stack. It's pretty clearly marked. I put it at the top just because I know sometimes, as I've mentioned before, I know sometimes some podcast players are probably cutting off all of the links, and I do try to scrunch them all down just so all of our source material is there. But
yeah,
like anyone really interested in our sources can just go to the main Gish Gallop Girl site at our host at Podbean and pick it up from there. That being said, in the future, when I have the time, I will be putting every episode into its own page on our website with all of the sources listed there for everything that we've covered going back. I just have to get the power port on my old computer fixed so that I can actually access most of that crap, because I did not cloud save it. It's all on a very secure machine, but the power port sucks, and it's going to cost me like $100 to get it fixed, and I just have not taken the time. Well, because I can take it over to Micro Center, and they can fix it in about a week. Yeah, I've already talked to the guys over there. I told them what was up, and they were like, "Yeah, you can bring it in. That's usually a real simple turnaround." I was like, "Well, yeah, I expected it would be. It's a fucking laptop, and I'm not going to touch that shit. If it was a desktop, I would have had it repaired already myself. But laptops, I respect the skill of the technicians, and there's only so much shit I'm going to ever do on a laptop, and fixing stuff that requires soldering is not it. So,
No.
Yeah. Like, that's why I got the...
I do have a soldering kit.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that. But this requires cracking it open and going into all the innards that... Like, I didn't even enjoy, like, putting the new RAM and the new flash... Or not flash drive, excuse me. The SSD in that thing. I did not enjoy that process one bit. Everything in a laptop is so goddamn tight, and if you fuck up one thing, you can fuck up everything. So
that's fair.
Yeah, is that I'm definitely gonna when we have the space for it, and we have the space for a home studio, I'm definitely gonna build a dedicated desktop machine just for this shit. But let's get into it. So let me make sure that I wipe on my screen a little bit so it doesn't fucking disappear again. All right, so let's start this up. So Candace is coming in off of just giving birth to her second child. Now, that is what I thought at the start of this episode. I'm going to go ahead and say right now that, okay, when you look at when the episodes were produced, this episode, episode 10 in this series, and episode 11, which we'll be covering next week, because Candace did both of them at the same, like in the same like long session, according to her.
Yeah.
I think that was fortuitous because those episodes, at least this one, was published the day before she gave birth to her second kid. Yeah. Because I think this one came out on July 13th of 2022. And then she gave birth on July 14th to her second kid, which is her daughter.
Of course.
Yeah. And then
I thought wouldn't this be kid number 3?
No, kid number 2 was in 2022. Kid number 1 is who she had previously. Kid number 2 is in 2022. Kid number 3 was about a year later. And then the most recent one was just this year, like within the last couple months.
Okay.
Yeah.
The unfortunate kid number 4.
Yeah. Look, let's be frank. All those kids are unfortunate. They may not, like number 4 may not even be the last.
I hope for that family's sake that is the last.
They're rich. Fuck them.
Fair enough.
Look, they can afford to have all these kids, as they would honestly probably tell anybody. So I don't look.
That's fair.
I mean, the more kids there are, the less attention any of them are going to get from a woman that is constantly me all the time on camera, and a father that clearly, like, come on, this motherfucker was going to leave his late pregnant wife to go to another country. And hold on, it says running out of time. Upgrade to Zoom Workplace Pro and unlock the latest features, including AI Companion 2.0. Oh, yeah, okay, all right. Let me see.
It says 9 minutes.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell it to upgrade me. Yeah, I'll do the monthly. That's fine. Try free for 7 days, even better. There we go. Okay, so there's
40 minutes.
Yeah, not a problem. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to hit subscribe. There we go. All right.
Meeting has been upgraded by the host. Now includes unlimited minutes.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Give me just a second here. Sorry this is all happening in real time, folks, but it is what it is. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
This is both of our first times using Zoom.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. Meeting now has unlimited minutes. Okay, cool. I mean, $17 a month ain't bad, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at any rate. So we're going to get this started up now with the first clip. As I said at the top, Candace is coming in just about to give birth to her second child. And that is what this episode is going to be about. She's actually going to be talking a little bit about the second kid, But most of this is about the first kid and, all the whatever drama she's invented that she went through with the first kid's birth. So, here we go.
All right, guys, welcome to episode 10 of A Shot in the Dark. I know it has been
now it actually
a
looks
while.
like I'm looking at the screen.
I was going to take 1 week off, and then I went away to Budapest during that week. I got COVID again, so this is the second time that I've had COVID while pregnant. It was exactly like the first time that I had it. I was saying to my husband,
hold on a moment here. Okay, so were you able to hear that?
I was not, no.
Okay. All right. Give me just a second. I'm just going to pause this where we are. Okay, so we are back, and we fixed our little audio problem, and here is the first clip of episode 10 of A Shot in the Dark.
All right, guys, welcome to episode 10 of A Shot in the Dark. I know it has been a while. I think it's been 3 weeks, actually. I said I was going to take 1 week off. And then I went away to Budapest during that week. I got COVID again. So this is the second time that I've had COVID while pregnant. It was exactly like the first time that I had it. I've been saying to my husband, I think this means that we're probably going to have quite a dramatic little girl when she gets here. But this was the second time I had it, and my symptoms were virtually the same as the first time. It was almost like a 48-hour, more than a cold, less than the flu, and the worst part were just like the aches. I did nothing but took a paracetamol. I think I'm saying that correctly. The Europeans that watch the show will know what I'm talking about. It's basically just Tylenol. I took one because the aches were completely unbearable, and then I was better within 2 days. But then I always get, at least with the 2 times I've had COVID, a week of just feeling really tired, like my brain's not fully back on. Kind of sucks to be in a foreign country with COVID, but other than that, it was totally fine and normal, and I think that's a great place to start because...
Okay, so Candace has said this before, that every time she has been pregnant, which is now at least 4 times, she has gotten COVID during every pregnancy. She always claims that she just shuffles it off, but I do have to say that she at least owns up to having it, and very obviously being a spreader, since she refuses to get vaccinated. Paracetamol, the drug she mentioned, is just what we call acetaminophen in the US and Canada, basically Tylenol, just like she said. So it is safe to use during pregnancy, even a pregnancy with COVID. And now, someone is going to do something that no human should ever, under any circumstances, do. Someone wrote to Candace asking for advice.
I had a woman email me in my info at Candace Owens inbox, and she said, help, I've just gotten COVID. This is my first pregnancy. I don't know what to do, and I'm kind of nervous about it, which is totally understandable. I think the nerves in general when you are pregnant for the first time are completely overwhelming, and you're second guessing yourself. Even if you have the information, you know what the truth is, you still second guess yourself every step of the way. And I get so many women that email me who are in their first pregnancies, and they're like, oh, the doctor says I need the Tdap shot. The doctor says I need to do glucose testing. I recently, obviously, when I was 20 plus weeks pregnant is when they offer the Tdap shot. I fully declined that. People always ask me what I've done. I declined the glucose testing. My reasons are very simple. First and foremost, with the Tdap shot, if you actually begin to pursue the other side of this, and you go on many different feeds, whether it's a Reddit feed where people are allowed to post anonymously, or into these baby and mama forums, it is shocking how many women went in for that shot and then in their next appointment were told that there was not a heartbeat. I've gotten, and this is kind of one of, I wouldn't say a downside of doing this podcast, but it is a heartbreaking side of doing this podcast, is the amount of women that write to me and tell me their stories, whether it's about their children dying of SIDS, or whether it's about their children going in for a shot and then never being the same, and digressing, and my child was talking, Candace, and then they stopped talking, and this happened to me. Or these women who say, I know in my heart that this was related to me going in and getting a Tdap shot. Next appointment, they found no heartbeat, and they said that suddenly the infant had died in the womb. And it's a heartbreaking part of doing the show because it makes me realize how widespread gaslighting is. For so many of these women, it's like you know everything about your body, but you sort of I guess, removed your instincts and handed them off to a doctor because you're supposed to trust that doctor. And the doctor's not necessarily a bad person. The doctor is a part of Big Pharma because they have to be. These people are being threatened with their medical licenses for speaking out. Again, something that we saw so much during the era of COVID. And so I try to always say to parents, go with your gut instinct. Honestly, go with your gut instinct. The amount of women that have said, every time I took my child to a wellness visit and I brought them back sick, I knew that this was something I was doing wrong, but the doctors kept telling me that if I didn't do this, then I was doing something wrong. And one of the things that, in terms of my gut instinct being strengthened, is just seeing the health of my baby boy every single day. There is no person that's going to gaslight me into believing that my son is sick. We live in a society right now where we're being told that health is sickness and sickness is health. So my child, who's perfectly healthy, running around like a little Spartan, is somehow sick and diseased because he hasn't received any vaccines. And yet some of my family members and some of my friends whose children have all of these allergies, who are coming back head to toe eczema from these wellness visits, are being told your child's healthy and all of this is completely normal and you did the right thing by getting your child vaxxed. That is the definition of gaslighting. And it's sad that it's gotten this far, but I'm hopeful that we're turning a bend. I think we are turning a bend because so many of you guys have been sharing this podcast, have been reaching out to me, have been saying that you're going to do things differently. I have been blown away, especially this past 2 weeks that I've been gone. I don't know what's going on, but this podcast is just getting a lot of reach. I have people that are giving to this podcast. You guys know that we have the donation on patreon.com. If you find me on there and you just want to donate to keep this podcast going. People from Canada, from New Zealand. It's an amazing feeling that we're reaching so many different people. And all we're doing is just talking in a way that we haven't been allowed to be spoken. We haven't been allowed to speak before. We have not been allowed to come together as parents. And I think the timing of this is beneficial because of just how daunting Big Pharma has become, just how firm their grip is becoming on most parents. And I wish I had all the answers in terms of people saying, my child's not being allowed to go to summer camp. My child lives in this state. I just found out from our Patreon call, my top tier donors are able to do a Skype with me once a month. And she was telling me that in California, if a doctor writes more than, I think she said 1 or 5 exemptions over their career, they just get their medical license removed. So
okay, that was almost 4.5 minutes of bullshit. So, anyone that has heard this show to this point is well aware of the many levels of bullshit that she just said there. But to recap, no vaccine given in a normal childhood run causes eczema. Most of the time, when reviewed by a physician, the cause can usually be discovered and treatment, if necessary, can be given. Most cases of eczema go away as inexplicably as they came in, but none can be attributed to vaccines. Moving on from that, any parent with a legitimate claim can take their case to vaccine court and they will be listened to in all seriousness. I don't for a second buy any of these stories that people write to Candace about. Anyway, as for what she said at the end of the clip, if a doctor in California writes more than 5 medical vaccine exceptions in a single year, those exceptions can be put under review. The exceptions are reviewed, and depending on the outcome, the exception can be revoked. As for the doctor themselves, their practice can be put under review, but medical license revocation is extremely rare. There is an investigation and due process that occurs first, and prior to revocation, there may be periods of medical probation or license suspension. So any doctor in California that triggers that process really does need to have their shit together. Medical vaccine exceptions in California aren't just done on a card that you carry around. They are registered with the State of California CAIR-ME electronic registry. So, all of those such exemptions are known and can be pulled up by any authorized person using the state database. But also, these rules only apply to students in group settings such as normal public classroom. Included in the link stack is a long page of information about how the process works in general, but especially for homeschooled students in California, from the Homeschool Association of California. The information is a good resource for anyone interested in it, so I am including it, as it outlines the process and informs parents of the actual laws and regulations regarding this stuff. Candace could have provided such a resource herself, as this page existed before her show did. But no. She only has 2 links in her link stack this week. And we will discuss those as they come up. But Candace isn't done getting this entire process very, very wrong. Yeah.
Okay. So she also hurt for her Patreon halfway through that.
Yeah, now here's something. Now, okay, now about the Patreon, all right? I don't know if you noticed last week, but I didn't mention a single Patreon break.
Yeah.
That wasn't because I edited them out.
She didn't harp for it.
She didn't push it. She did not push her Patreon in the last episode. And spoiler alert, y'all, she doesn't do it in this one, aside from like mentioning it here and there. The hard commercial that she cut for the Patreon that we've heard before, she didn't run it last week, and she didn't run it on this week's episode either. If I had, like, now, what I would like to have happened, I would like for it to have happened that maybe someone at Daily Wire pulled her aside and said, "What the fuck are you doing? Yeah. Do we not pay you enough? You know? Like, if you're gonna...
We're paying you a reasonable rate."
Yeah. You know, and the terms of her contract have never been made public, to my knowledge. Because I certainly looked. I looked around for a while. Like, when it was announced that she was split, I was like, oh, well, how much was she even fucking making over there? And I never found it. So, I don't know if... that's why, like, I kind of theorized early on, like, you know, do all of these people have a Patreon? I never went looking. I never went looking for... Matt Walsh's Patreon or anybody else's over there, because honestly I don't give a fuck. They're not the source of this podcast, but or you know, they're not the focus of this podcast rather. But I never really traveled down those rabbit holes. But I looked around to see if her contract was ever made public, and it would have made some sense for them to be like, look at how much we were paying her. But I don't know. I don't know. I just know that she was running a Patreon, and I'm pretty sure she was running some kind of merch here and there aside from her Blackout book. But yeah, she just, God, she like I said, she's not done getting this process very wrong. Here's the next clip.
Imagine being a doctor, right? And you are seeing at your practice every day that every time you give this shot, or you know this patient and you know that this family has a history of every time they get this shot, they have a reaction to it. If you write that family more than one exception, the state comes in and takes your medical license. So essentially, you're being punished for being a good doctor, for looking at children as individuals, for assessing them as individuals, for actually thinking about whether or not they need a certain vaccine. The state of California will punish you. That basically says this is a, one-size-fits-all medical industry. We are saying that every single child is fine with this. I don't care if you think that this child is having a reaction. Oh well, let the child get the reaction, or else you are going to lose your medical license. And that's a very, very scary state to be in, California, and having children. And I said to her, "What are you doing? Can you share your doctor's information?" I get so many people that write to me asking me, "Hey, I live in California. I don't know where to find doctors that will allow me to go along with what I feel comfortable with." And this woman also shared with me that she won't share her doctor because she knows that if the state finds out what doctor is letting them skip vaccinations, they will take their medical license away. And
I mean, that is their right if they're just writing exceptions, willy-nilly, like it's fucking, some child prescription doctor. Medical exemption in California for kids and vaccines works like this. No vaccine exemption is permanent. A child can be issued a temporary exemption, which is good for only 12 months, or a, quote, permanent, end quote, exemption that isn't actually permanent. The permanent one is only good until a student enters kindergarten or 7th grade. And then a new one would have to be pursued. Now, a doctor in California doesn't have to risk a damn thing in service to their patients. Included in the link stack is the website for the CAIR-ME office, and it walks people, whether doctors or patients, through the process to obtain this exemption if needed. A parent can start the process on the site and coordinate with an approved doctor for what they need. Again, all of this information was readily available to her in 2022, since this entire effort was put in place in mid-2021. And it was a pretty big deal at the time. Like, there's no fucking excuse. She could have told her listeners, hey, you people in California, I'm going to do you a solid. This is how you can walk right through the fucking, this is how you can walk through the fire, you know? Mm-hmm. She could have easily provided that to people. But no, she fucking didn't.
Instead, she chose to try and rage monger people into fucking...
Yeah, into fear.
Hating their doctors.
Yeah, into hating their doctors and just having total abject fear. Yeah. But yeah, now, surprise, surprise, if this is true, Candace is a bad patient, even for her concierge physician.
And that is what I mean when I say these doctors are under duress. Now, fortunately, my doctor, I was very upfront with my doctor. I have an amazing OBGYN, and I was upfront and open. He knows me as Candace, who does a shot in the dark, and he is very, very, he's just a great doctor. He tells me everything he has to say legally, and then accepts the fact that I'm just not going to do any of it. And in terms of the glucose testing, I'm like, I know my baby's fine. I feel great every single day. You can look at a woman and tell when there's issues with the pregnancy. I mean, you look and it almost looks like her body's rejecting the pregnancy, and then you can find out that that person has all of these other conditions. I feel great. I feel healthy. I'm not going to I'm not going to inject anything into my healthy body that's carrying a pregnancy. Great. And what was really interesting to me was that during my last appointment, because I really never go to the appointments, which is part of the problem, but I did just go to my 36-week checkup, I think it was, Savannah, and I told him I had COVID again. I was like, oh, well, I had COVID, got it in Budapest, told him, I said, this is the second time I've had during this pregnancy, and he said, we're supposed to recommend that you get an injection of aspirin. I think he said to the uterus, like it was some like insane thing, like an injection of aspirin to the uterus. And I just thought to myself, he's like, I know you're going to say no, but I have to tell you, like I said, he's a great guy, but I just have to tell you, Candace, that this is what we're supposed to recommend. And I thought, how interesting. We've just been told that there's absolutely nothing that can treat COVID. Remember, nothing. There's nothing out there that you can possibly take to treat COVID. And yet at the exact same time, other than the vaccines, right? But at the exact same time, they're telling pregnant women that an injection of aspirin is what they should get after they have COVID. I mean, that doesn't even make any sense to me at all. So, of course, I declined the injection of aspirin to my uterus or wherever he said it was supposed to go. I just instantly was like, no, don't even want to hear about it.
Yeah, so what do you think about that?
Okay, so firstly, he wasn't saying it would cure COVID. He was saying it's something that has to be done after the fact. And secondly, that doesn't even sound like a plausible thing that anyone would ever recommend, unless it was like the 1800s.
Not even. If this is
the 1800s, they'd just burn her for having a political view.
Yeah, they burn her for being a woman that opens her mouth. Let alone being of a dark skin variety, likely.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Well, if this is true, then her doctor is also worse at their job than I would have ever thought possible. So even wait for it. So even back in 2022, this was not standard procedure for anyone with COVID, and certainly not a pregnant woman for any reason. Candace is either making this up, or the jackass treating her is on some other kind of shit. Because injecting aspirin into the uterus or the bloodstream or anywhere else is not a recommended course of treatment during pregnancy. Aspirin can be recommended during pregnancy if preeclampsia is a concern, but that is a low-dose 81 milligram option that can be bought over the counter practically anywhere. And the dose is limited to 1 pill per every 24 hours. This is because the main concern with preeclampsia prevention is to prevent the blood clots that cause the most problems with this condition. Preeclampsia, as I understand it basically, can start with blood clotting issues that then cascade into high blood pressure and can lead to edema and organ damage or failure if not caught right away. The only treatment for COVID during pregnancy is an oral antiviral known as Paxlovid, which is a combination of 2 pills that must be taken under supervision. I am linking to 2 Cleveland Clinic pages that outline what to do about COVID while pregnant and how Paxlovid works in general. This is crucial information that Candace should be giving out, period, and following herself. The dangers of having COVID while pregnant are extremely high, as is the concern that it can pass to the child. If Candace has actually had COVID during her pregnancies, she has been extremely lucky, because a review of case studies on that is not good. Candace's doctor, if this is to be believed at all, is a fucking hack. Yeah. So, that is... yeah.
Maybe it's just Hitler's doctor reincarnated.
You know, man, even Hitler's doctor, like, was like... I mean, he wasn't decent. He was working on Hitler and keeping him alive and all methamphetamine up and shit, but... my God. Like, I mean, even he had better knowledge and scruples than this shit, you know? Like, I think if Hitler pointed at a pregnant woman and was like, treat her too and make sure she gets through this, the doctor would be so afraid for the patient to die, they would do everything in their power. They would be like, you will go into a locked room. You know? You will be under guard 24/7. Like, oh my God.
You will have no escape from this.
Yeah. You will give birth and you will survive until he says otherwise. I mean, I got bad news for you if he says otherwise. It's gonna. I will try to make it not hurt. You know, like, come on, man. Unless he says otherwise.
That's why we put you into a room.
Yeah. A chamber,
if he says
if you will.
Otherwise, you're already in your chamber.
Yeah. Get a good look at those walls and that ceiling and that floor. Yeah. Oh my God. So now we will move on to the first of only 2 links in Candace's link stack for this episode. And she's going to start by telling us about one of them.
Which brings me to the news story of the week that I really want to get into, because it's absolutely insane. I'm sure you've seen it if you're following me on Instagram. Just sharing this is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. The Daily Mail reporting that there's some mysterious illness that is causing adults to suddenly die, right? They just don't know what it is. That perfectly healthy young adults are dropping dead suddenly, and they don't know why. And this is got to be the greatest modern example of what it is I am talking about when I say that the big pharma gaslights. So you just forced a bunch of young, healthy adults, knowing fully well that myocarditis, blood clots were a big part of this potential side effect from this vaccine. You censored every single person that was saying that they were having these side effects, enlarged hearts. And now a bunch of people start dying, a bunch of healthy young adults are dying and dropping dead, and you are now referring to this as a mysterious illness that has doctors and people in the medical community stumped. There are absolutely no doctors or genuine people in the medical community that are stumped. There are people that are too afraid to speak out and say that it's very obvious that the COVID-19 mass vaccination global campaign is causing healthy people to drop dead. And I can't even believe that they're just going to pretend that they have no idea why this is happening. So many people after getting the second injection had many issues. Sometimes people developed autoimmune issues. I had a person that was nannying for my son instantly developed an autoimmune disorder, as well as her father, and she basically had to stop working for us because she was so sick. She was taking so much time off to try to figure out what was wrong with her, and she just said, you know, me and my dad obviously both got this COVID vaccine, the second shot, and this is what's happening. Big Pharma doesn't care. Big Pharma will gaslight parents, whether or not it's their children that are getting injections, or whether or not it is you as an adult that is being forced to get an injection to keep your job. Big Pharma's job is to make money, to allow us all to be used as test dummies, and then to look you square in the face and pretend they have no idea what's going on, and to normalize it going forward. So going forward, imagine if you fast forward to 40 years, when I talk about us having a very short human memory, right? 40 years from now, when adults and kids are dying of heart attacks, they're not going to remember this COVID, this phase of COVID, this crazy mass vaccination campaign. 40 years from now, if we don't stand up and speak out against this and really say this is like enough is enough, they will have the COVID shot as mandated shots to play soccer, mandated shots to go to school. They're already trying. In some circumstances, they've been successful at certain universities of making this a required shot. And then they're just going to pretend that it's totally normal that 13-year-olds drop dead of heart attacks, that 30-year-olds drop dead of heart attacks all the time. And it's why this podcast, to me, is so important, because we cannot allow history to be forgotten as Big Pharma secures more power for itself. So-
Okay, so before I get into the material, do you know what I just realized when we were listening to that just now that I didn't pick up on the first time?
Her sitter wanted to quit?
The fact that she had a nanny at all. Candace has said on record many times she doesn't have nannies. She has said many times that she does not have nannies and that she's the only one that handles her kids. That's why listening to this is sometimes instructive for me too, because I'm like, fuck, I missed that. But I have actually been, I've been contacted by people on Reddit here and there. One guy went to school with Candace and has given me a few stories. Yeah. None of which I really want to repeat. They're not incredibly terrible. We know she was a party girl in college. He's just confirmed some shit that I already knew or had already guessed. But one of them was a nanny, actually. And I was like, well, I don't know about this, Yeah, I would, but the way that she's telling it, like, this woman was working for them and then got an autoimmune disorder and had to leave. I wouldn't be surprised if she just, gave that as an excuse to end her employment because she's like, oh my God, I'm working for Candace Owens.
Yeah,
or I can get more money elsewhere, but I got to find a way out of this contract. Yeah. Maybe I can use her shady ass doctor to write me a condition form or some shit. Yeah. Hey, look, you know what I'm up against here. What would you say I have? I could just imagine that happening. Just like, look, I know you like money. How much money would you like? Yeah. Would $1,000 be enough for you to just sign this form for me? Something. But anyway, let's
we already know she's only going to trust your word anyway. We might as well.
Yeah. So let's discuss this Daily Mail story. So this story does not in any way say what she desperately wants it to say. Just like other grifters. Yeah, well, just like other grifters, Candace is guilty of reading a headline and making up the rest. The story isn't that long, but as is our way here, I will be including the link as part of Candace's links at the top of the stack if anyone wants to pause this and follow along. But here we go. I'm going to read the story. Okay? So, healthy young people are dying suddenly and unexpectedly from a mysterious syndrome as doctors seek answers through a new national register. That was the headline. Mm-hmm. The text of the article says, by Tom Heaton for Daily Mail Australia. People aged under 40 are being urged to have their hearts checked because they may potentially be at risk of sudden adult death syndrome. The syndrome, known as SADS or SADS, has been fatal for all kinds of people, regardless of whether they maintain a fit and healthy lifestyle. SADS is an umbrella term to describe unexpected deaths in young people, said the Royal Australian College of General Practitioners, most commonly occurring in people under 40 years of age. The term is used when a post-mortem cannot find an obvious cause of death. The United States-based SADS Foundation has said that over half of the 4,000 annual SADS deaths of children, teens, or young adults have one of the top two warning signs present. Those signs include a family history of a SADS diagnosis or sudden unexplained death of a family member, and fainting or seizure during exercise or when excited or startled, reported news.com.au. Last year, a 31-year-old woman, Catherine Keane, died in her sleep while living with two friends in Dublin. Her mother, Margarita Cummins, told the Irish Mirror, "They were all working from home, so no one really paid attention when Catherine didn't come down for breakfast. They sent her a text at 11:20 a.m., and when she didn't reply, they checked her room and found she had passed. Her friend heard a noise in her room at 3:56 a.m. and now believes that is when she died." Miss Cummins stated that her daughter, quote, "went to the gym and walked 10,000 steps every day," end quote. She goes on to say, quote, "I take some comfort in that she went in her sleep and knew no pain, and I'm grateful for that. I always worried about the kids driving in the car, but never saw this coming. I never thought I'd ever lose a child in my life. Melbourne's Baker Heart and Diabetes end quote. Melbourne's Baker Heart and Diabetes Institute is developing the country's first SADS registry. Quote, "There are approximately 750 cases per year of people aged under 50 in Victoria suddenly having their hearts stop, cardiac arrest," end quote, a spokesperson said. And quote again, "Of these, approximately 100 young people per year will have no cause found even after extensive investigations, such as a full autopsy, otherwise known as the SADS phenomenon," end quote. Cardiologist and researcher Dr. Elizabeth Paratz said, quote, "Baker's registry was the first in the country and one of only a few in the world that combined ambulance, hospital, and forensics information," end quote. She goes on to say, "It allows you to see people have had the cardiac arrest and no cause was found in the back end." She believes the potential lack of awareness may be due to the fact that, quote, "a lot of it takes place outside of traditional medical settings. The majority of these SADS events, 90%, occur outside the hospital. The person doesn't make it, so it's actually ambulance staff and forensics caring for the bulk of these patients," Dr. Paratz said. She goes on to say, "I think even doctors underestimate it. We only see the 10% who survive and make it to hospital. We only see the tip of the iceberg ourselves. For family and friends of victims, SADS is a very hard entity to grasp because it's a diagnosis of nothing." Dr. Paratz went on to say that from a public health perspective, combating SADS was, quote, "not as easy as everyone in Australia getting genetically screened," end quote, as scientists were still not 100% clear on, quote, "what genes cause this," end quote. "The best advice would be if you yourself have had a first-degree relative, a parent, sibling, or child, who's had an unexplained death, it's extremely recommended that you see a cardiologist," she said. So that's the article. It says nothing about COVID, and this has been an ongoing and pervasive problem with people and undiagnosed heart conditions across cultures and countries for many years. Candace saw a headline, knew that her audience would neither read nor comprehend the fucking thing, and ran with it. Classic grifter bullshit. Now, what follows in the next clip, and you may hear it, it is only a few seconds in, but they cut the end of this segment on the Daily Mail article and cut in with the next segment. It's brief, but I wanted to call it out because I did not clip things together. This is all them. As soon as it plays.
So I wanted to just start with that. So I want to talk a little bit about induction because it occurred to me, one of my close friends got induced last week, and I just started thinking that almost every single woman I know is induced. They don't go into labor naturally. Even the people that I know that do go into labor naturally are then induced. And what I mean by that is if their water breaks, then they're suddenly told that they need to have Pitocin, which, is supposed to speed up labor, and all of these, interventions that happen. And I just started thinking, is that normal that so many women are needing to be induced? And the answer, I guess, to that question is that first and foremost, depending on what OBGYN you use, the majority of them will absolutely not allow you to go past 42 weeks. They will actually say that they will kick you out of their practice if you want to go past 42 weeks. They can't allow it because there are risks to the mother and there are risks to the baby. which is super interesting. And first off, just the idea that you can be kicked out of an OBGYN office. So it's like, okay, I'm sorry, now you have to have your baby on the street because your baby went past 42 weeks or past 41 weeks, depending on which practice you're a part of. Seems a little bit odd to me. But also, just how did humanity go on? Like, are you telling me that every single person needs to have some sort of a medical intervention? Like, how did we get to this late stage of humanity if women are just unable to have their children naturally without all of these medical interventions?
Yeah, that would be crazy if it were in any way true anywhere in America. Fortunately, it is not. No pregnant person of any age can be compelled or forced to give birth by 42 weeks if they don't want to do so, in any state. Patients can lawfully refuse induction as long as they are made aware of the risks of carrying for a longer term. I would not doubt that the women in Candace's circle of friends are just dumb enough to believe otherwise. But again, this isn't true, and she's just out there telling people it is. And for what reason? There's no way that making pregnant people or their partners afraid of one more thing about pregnancy is going to make people want to make more people. The end game of this kind of lie is baffling to me. I can't grasp like where these are the same people that are like, oh, we need to have more people, and you need to outlaw condoms and outlaw porn and whatever the fuck. Like, it's like, no.
Yeah,
You need to make living conditions easier for people and make it easier for them to even have kids in the first fucking place. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, I see the cost of like diapers and shit right now. Like I buy diapers for people frequently as a shipped shopper, mm-hmm. and holy shit, like diapers and wipes and all of that. Oh my God. And there are so many like fancy man diaper brands out there now. Like Millie Moon is one, right? They make unisex diapers. They don't really make them necessarily for boys or girls, which I think is a smart business move on their part, because they don't have to have dual marketing like Huggies and Pampers do. They just make the one, like you have a size 1 kid. Okay. You have a size 2 kid. Here you go. Like it's actually really smart. There's also the Honest Company that makes a lot of diapers and wipes and baby food and shit. Do you know who owns the Honest Company?
No. Kellogg?
No, actually, Jessica fucking Alba.
I'm blank on that one.
She was the original Invisible Woman in the Fantastic Four 1 and 2 movies.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I mean, she's got a lot of other like acting credits, but Sin City, for example, she was a character in Sin City. I think her name was Nancy in Sin City. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, she was like an exotic dancer or whatever in that movie, who was doing that to get through college, to become like a lawyer or some shit. And that played into the overall plot of the thing. But yeah, Jessica Alba runs the Honest Company. So anytime like you see that shit, that expensive shit pass through like a register, yeah, she's gonna get a little piece of that. Like, smart business move on her part. There's another one too. They don't make diapers; they make food. Once Upon a Farm. That is owned by the former Mrs. Ben Affleck, Jennifer Garner. Yeah, that's her company. Yeah. They make all that organic, like baby, like pouch food and shit. Yeah. That's entirely her bag. Yeah. So here's the next clip.
And so I just wanted to go over just a couple of things that you should know about induction. And in the next segment, I'm going to tell you my birth story, my first birth story. I was induced, so I just want to be very clear that I am not judging anybody at all if you got induced. I just wanted to explore the topic altogether. So there are some things you should know about induction. Here are 4 of them. When you are induced, you have an increased risk of abnormal fetal heart rate and shoulder dystocia. You also have an increased risk of your baby being admitted to the NICU, the NICU. You also have an increased risk of forceps or vacuum extraction. That makes sense, obviously, because you're saying baby come out now as opposed to the baby telling you that it's coming out now. And you also have an increased risk of a C-section. Now, these are not things at all that they tell you.
Again, her doctors sound very fucking unethical. And anytime I or anyone I have ever known was having any kind of medical procedure done, I and they were informed of what to expect, unless it was an extreme emergency. But even then, they tried, to be upfront about as much information as possible. As long as the patient, including myself, was aware of their surroundings. Otherwise, their loved ones, if they were present, were informed. This is basic medical ethics. Now, what I can imagine easily is that neither Candace nor her friends that went through induction, I can imagine that none of them were really paying attention when they should have been. And so many complications would have been any complications would have been shocking. That's just my take on it, right? I mean, because she shared a photo a couple years ago that got her a lot of heat online. It was on her Instagram. One of the many reasons why I think she killed the Instagram. But photo that she shared online was of her like baby shower or some shit. She is the only black woman in this crowd of like 30 ladies. Mm-hmm. They all look like they walked off the set of a Fox News show. Like just the most Caucasian group of people. Like there's a phenotype in this crowd, Yeah. And they like the comments under the photos were just, I mean, people go for the throat. Like, we're doing this show, and I don't go for the throat as often as these people. Like, I mean, I think they just come up with some stunning names for her. The one that I see consistently, I did see a new one today that I hadn't seen on Reddit. I was responding to a story on the Leopards Ate My Face forum about Candace. Someone shared a screenshot from, I think it was from Twitter, of Candace and Nick Fuentes having this long beef after their recent public spat that they filmed and charged people $2 to see, which is easily the cheapest pay-per-view fight I can think of, aside from me finding it for free on Rumble. But so they shared all these comments, all this back and forth backbiting between these two horrible people, just fucking Nazi kaiju. And they that's what I think of when I see these people. It's like, oh my God, it's like if the Nazis made fucking, I don't want to say the kaiju monster's name, so I don't want to give them that stain, but but I don't want to think about that, so I'm already thinking about it.
I mean, it makes Pacific Rim even better of a movie.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I mean, but that would just be like these monsters fighting it out for a population, while the Pacific Rim, Marines show up in their, whatever their fucking mech suits are called.
Mech suits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're twin running mech suits. What a weird concept. Anyway. So
I'm glad they get away from that in the more recent movie.
Yeah, I don't know. That was, I'm going to be honest with you, I was never a huge Godzilla watcher. I never really cared much for it, and when the Matthew Broderick movie blew up in the mid to late 90s, I was like, all right, this is fine, it's whatever. I knew so many people back then who were so butthurt that Godzilla was a female because it laid eggs, and I was like, that's your gripe? That's your gripe? All right, I mean, whatever, man.
That's the problem here.
Yeah. That's the problem, is that they have a plot device to make sequels. All right, man, whatever. Your gripe is not that Godzilla shows up not in the Pacific area where it makes sense, but in fucking New York Harbor.
Yeah.
And Rex Manhattan. All right, whatever. I could easily come up with arguments of why it sucks, but I was generally okay with it. I was like, all right, man, whatever. But Yeah, like I just, these people are the worst. Anyway, someone called her in the comments section of this Leopards Ate My Face post. They called her Candace. Like Candace Owens, like Candeath. Candace. And I was like, all right, that's different. Because usually I see people like call her Candace. I've seen that quite a bit. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen Candace quite often. Yeah. And people were calling her Candace in the comments of that baby shower photo. They're like, nice group of sisters there, Candace, like that kind of thing. Like, oh, damn. Like, I mean, when I reach out to people on Reddit, because I snipe a new one every day. I snipe a new one every fucking day. Someone I haven't seen before will post something to the Candace forum. A lot of them lately have been posting things like questioning the whole Brigitte Macron thing. Like trying to figure out like, well, where did Candace get this story from? Because this looks like obvious bullshit. And so what I'll do is like, I can't post on that board anymore. I can't publicly respond to comments, but they can't keep me from clicking on a username and sending a direct message. And that's what I do. I direct message these people, and I generally send them all the same thing. Like I've done it so often that like I can just hit the predictive text button in my phone, and just kind of like send off the first couple of sentences, and then I'll respond directly, or I'll talk directly about what they do.
Yeah. And
usually I'll send out like, "Hi, I saw your post in r/Candace Owens. I run Gish Gallop Girl, a podcast focused on debunking her." And then I'll usually address whatever the thing is, like, I saw that you called out bullshit on the Brigitte Macron stuff. You're on the right track, but if you want more help, we did an episode last year, and I have the episodes like queued up in my in like pinned in my fucking text. Like I know which ones they are. Like I know episode 19 is Poussard the Coward. So like I'll send them the link to that. And, I'll usually offer like, and you can ask me anything, like I'll talk with you. Like, I'm approachable. And it's this weird ratio. It's like 1 out of every 5 will actually, like, they almost always accept the chat invite.
Yeah.
But only about 1 out of every 5 will actually respond. Some of them have responded very well, like, oh, thank you. I'd like to talk about this more, but I'll go give the episode a listen. That kind of thing. Or I think this is a woman, based on her other Reddit posts. She said, oh yeah, it was. I had mentioned something about Candace's colleagues, and she actually told me something to the effect of, Candace doesn't have colleagues. You must be an Israel or France lover. To which I responded, colleagues means people that work in the same field, such as Alex Jones of InfoWars, who has had Candace on his show quite often, and he's just another media person in that space. That's all that word means. It doesn't mean coworkers. And then I went, and it's like, okay, we're obviously having a difference of words here, so I addressed that. And then I said, I was actually born Jewish and I was raised Christian, but I've understood the difference between Palestine and what they've tried to tell us about Palestine for much of my life. I was like, but, aside from that, so I'm not with Israel on any of that shit. I think what they're doing is a genocide, and I've been saying that for a long time. But I also told him, as far as France, the French people do hold a special place in my heart, but, that none of this stuff about, but they have their own problems, and none of this stuff about the Macrons is true. I invite you to try to pigeonhole my work. Try to find holes in it, because I have spent several hours doing any of these shows, and while I respect your time, I invite you to find problems with how I've done things. Now, I have been sending these messages out, one per day, and getting, like I said, sometimes pushback. Or, I'll go into like a forum like I did with Leopards Ate My Face, and I'll tell people who I am, and I'll tell them about this show. And I always make the invitation. If you think I got something wrong, prove it.
Tell us.
Yeah, tell me. Tell me. I will run a correction. I will check out your sources. But send me something that's sourced and verifiable if you think I got something wrong, And I've been doing that for months. I haven't gotten a single fucking response. Because I know better. I know the work that I do, the work that I present, the work that I show is, I don't want to say it's without fail, but I believe in what I put out. I believe in these episodes when we produce them. So yeah, I just the sheer like just grossness of some of these folks. Like this one that the Israel France lover person has several posts in their history on Reddit asking in different forums, like, why doesn't my boyfriend want me to wake him up when he's having bad dreams? Like, I don't know how to answer that, and I'm not going to try, but that seems like something that should be between y'all. I didn't address it. I didn't hunt them down. I was just looking through the post titles. Like, they reposted this in like Ask Men Over 30 and some of these other forums that men typically should be frequenting anyway, based on their forum names. But yeah, I was like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, if your dude doesn't want you to wake him up, if he's having nightmares or whatever, maybe respect that, because he could be very afraid that he's going to lash out physically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
especially if he's having like, especially if he's having like flashback shit, like, come on. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe ask him what the content of his nightmares are. Yeah. I feel like that should be the starting process of that anyway.
Yeah, I think maybe some therapy for him alone could help. But, that's not my place to say, so I didn't engage with any of it. I was just like, huh. Some of these people, like, I'll look through their comment history to try and see where their head is. And some of them, like, they'll post something to the Candace Owens, like I said, they'll post a thing to the Candace Owens sub, and, like, their other interests are, like, video games and, Sydney Sweeney and shit. They don't engage politically with anything else. It's like, how the fuck did you even come across this story? But anyway, let's go on to the next clip.
When you're at the doctor and they're saying, oh, would you like to get induced? It's like as soon as you hit 40 weeks, they talk to you about induction. And I'm going to tell you about my story. The reason that they usually give you, like the reasons that they say this is a great reason to get induction, first and foremost, we should admit that it's the comfort of the parent. A lot of times it's just by the time we get to late stage pregnancy, women don't want to be pregnant anymore. And they're like, well, if it makes it a couple of days earlier, I'll do it. And we all know that by the time you get to late stage, every day somehow feels like a month. Part of the reason why it was so difficult for me to record the last 2 weeks is because I wake up and it's like flipping a coin in terms of how I'm going to feel energy-wise. Those last 4 weeks, the baby puts on approximately 1 pound every week, and that takes the tremendous amount of energy away from mom. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired, and you really feel it. So there are days I wake up and I feel great, and there are days that I wake up and I feel exhausted. And I always say to my husband, I always know when she's growing because I am just so tired that I have to will myself out of bed to go get pizza. I mean, it's that's how I felt yesterday. And then today I was like, oh, I feel great. So a lot of times it's just the comfort of the parent. But then you start hearing a lot of talk about placental insufficiency, and they say that the placenta will die. And that was a really interesting thing, the idea of placental senescence, that your placenta will age and then it's really crappy and it's no good. And I wanted to actually explore that, because I thought to myself, what would be so bad about going to 42 weeks? If, you felt great, your baby feels good. Like right now, I feel I could go to 42 weeks. There's nothing wrong right now. Why would I suddenly have to go to 42 weeks? And placental insufficiency comes up all the time as a topic, this idea that your placenta is just going to die. And so I started looking into that and researching that.
Yeah, so did I. But mostly because she brought it up. So this is what I do, right? Anyway, from the Cleveland Clinic on the subject, and this is a long read, but I feel it's only right to go through it for the sake of folks listening that may be concerned, but without the time or ability to read this for themselves. So, anyway, here we go. From the Cleveland Clinic, and again, this link is, of course, in the link stack. Placental insufficiency or placental dysfunction is a condition that means your placenta isn't working properly during pregnancy. A placenta is the organ that supplies oxygen and nutrients to a fetus during pregnancy. With placental insufficiency, your placenta isn't transferring blood, oxygen, or nutrients efficiently. This can happen because your placenta doesn't develop correctly or is damaged. This can lead to the fetus being small for its age because it isn't getting what it needs to grow. A fetus being too small can lead to premature birth and other pregnancy complications. There is no treatment for placental insufficiency. A pregnancy care provider will monitor the fetus closely for the remainder of your pregnancy. In some cases, early delivery is the safest route. How common is placental insufficiency? Or is placental insufficiency? Placental insufficiency affects 1 in 10 pregnancies. Symptoms and causes. What are the signs of placental insufficiency? Well, there are often no noticeable signs of placental insufficiency. But symptoms like vaginal bleeding in early pregnancy and feeling the fetus move less may be an indication that there's an issue with your placenta. You may also notice you're not gaining as much weight as you have in prior pregnancies. What can cause placental insufficiency? Well, placental insufficiency happens when your placenta doesn't transfer enough blood containing oxygen and nutrients between you and the fetus. This means the fetus may not be getting what it needs to grow. Issues with how your placenta attaches to your uterine lining can cause placental insufficiency. Other causes include your placenta breaking away from your uterine lining, damage or injury to your placenta being an irregular shape, your placenta not growing large enough or being too small. Medical conditions or lifestyle factors can also cause your placenta not to work as well. Sometimes placental insufficiency happens without a known cause. We call this idiopathically. So what are the risk factors for placental insufficiency? Healthcare providers know that certain medical conditions can affect how a placenta develops and grows in pregnancy. Having these conditions increases your risk for placental disorders. These conditions include diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, blood clotting conditions, going beyond 40 weeks of pregnancy, preeclampsia, untreated uterine infections, heavy bleeding or other complications early in your pregnancy, being older than age 35, certain medications, using cigarettes, drinking alcoholic beverages, and misusing drugs during pregnancy can also cause the placenta to not work as well. So what are complications of placental insufficiency? Placental insufficiency can cause complications for both the mother and the fetus. It's more life-threatening for the fetus. Complications to the fetus from placental insufficiency can cause the following. Premature birth. Premature birth can cause low body temperature and low birth weight. IUGR, which is intrauterine growth restriction. Also, fetal hypoxia or lack of oxygen to the brain, which can lead to other complications. Anemia, low blood sugar, low calcium levels, which is called hypocalcemia, too much bilirubin in their blood, stillbirth. And in the birth mother, complications from placental insufficiency include placental abruption, preterm labor, preterm delivery. So how is placental insufficiency diagnosed? Well, Your pregnancy care provider will diagnose placental insufficiency during a prenatal exam or through an ultrasound. An ultrasound can detect blood flow between the placenta and the fetus, as well as determine the size and position of the placenta and the fetus. Your provider may suspect an issue with the placenta if the fetus seems smaller than average on the ultrasound, or when your fundal height measurement is smaller than expected. You should also discuss how much you feel the fetus move, as well as other concerns you may have. These could provide clues to your provider about how your pregnancy is developing. Management and treatment? Well, how is placental insufficiency managed? Unfortunately, there usually isn't any treatment for placental insufficiency. There isn't a cure or direct treatment to fix a placenta. Your pregnancy care provider will suggest ways to manage it and reduce its impact on your pregnancy. The care you'll need is unique to your pregnancy and often depends on what trimester of pregnancy you're in, your test results, other complications or symptoms you have. Monitoring your pregnancy is an important part of treatment. Your pregnancy care provider may want to see you more frequently and perform ultrasounds and fetal heart monitoring regularly to check on the growth and health of the fetus. Managing other conditions you may have, like diabetes or hypertension, is also a key part of treatment. So the treatment overview section says, what is placental insufficiency? We read through that. The Cleveland Clinic is a nonprofit academic medical center. There isn't a treatment for placental insufficiency. A pregnancy care provider will monitor the fetus closely for the remainder of your pregnancy, and in some cases, early delivery is the safest route. So there we go.
It's all right there.
Yeah, it's all right there, and yeah, here we go. There is a little more. Often, if the pregnancy is at term of 37 weeks, your provider may recommend delivery if it's safest for you and the fetus. If you haven't made it to term, your provider may monitor you more closely and look for signs that the fetus isn't tolerating pregnancy well. In this case, they may recommend an early delivery because it's safest. If you need an early delivery, they may prescribe steroids to help the fetus's lungs develop. Can placental insufficiency improve? Well, once you have placental insufficiency, your placenta won't become fully functional. Your pregnancy care provider will manage the condition and monitor the fetus closely for signs of problems. But an early diagnosis, managing underlying conditions, and attending all of your prenatal care appointments can keep your placenta from breaking down further. So what is the survival rate for fetuses with placental insufficiency? Well, most pregnant women with placental insufficiency make it to delivery. But it depends largely on what types of underlying conditions are present, how severe the placental dysfunction is, and how many weeks pregnant you are at diagnosis. Most times you can't prevent placental insufficiency. Getting early prenatal care is often the best thing you can do because it can allow a provider to detect it sooner. Early detection and management will reduce the chances of you experiencing complications during your pregnancy. Managing any pre-existing or new health conditions can also go a long way in preventing additional complications. How do I take care of myself if I have this? Well, follow your pregnancy care provider's instructions on how to take care of yourself. How they manage the condition varies and depends on how far you are in pregnancy and the seriousness of your condition. Babies born prematurely or with a health condition may need special care at birth in a neonatal intensive care unit, an NICU. It may help to prepare yourself for this happening. Don't be afraid to share your concerns with your provider. Ask them any questions you have on what you can do to increase your chances of delivering a healthy baby. When should I see my healthcare provider? Well, as placental insufficiency doesn't always cause symptoms, the best thing you can do is attend all of your prenatal care appointments and discuss any symptoms you do have with your provider. This can help them better detect pregnancy complications. During pregnancy, you should always contact your provider if you experience vaginal bleeding or pelvic cramps. So, a note from the Cleveland Clinic to round this out, there isn't a cure for placental insufficiency, but there are ways to manage it and increase your chances of having a healthy pregnancy and delivery. Follow your pregnancy care provider's advice on how to best care for yourself, including managing health conditions and attending all of your prenatal care appointments. Avoid drinking alcoholic beverages, using recreational drugs, and smoking cigarettes during pregnancy. Your provider will monitor you closely for the rest of your pregnancy to look for signs of complications and may even recommend an early delivery. And that is that. Now, I ran into an issue when I was reading that back because I accidentally copied and pasted like half of the article twice. That's why I had to kind of scroll through it there. But yeah. So now that we all have a grounding in correct information, it's time for Candace to have a go at it. Before I hit play on the next clip, I want you all to know that this is the second and last of the official links that Candace shares here. The link goes to a paper called Aging of the Placenta, and it is on a site that has it paywalled for a $64 fee. Now, I managed... Squishy has entered the chat. I managed to track down the full text on an alternative site that we've used before, PubMed Central. I will be including that link directly under the paid site link, as well as down in the link stack. If you want to read it for yourselves, it is a PDF at the link. The sources for it are cited on the PubMed page. Anyway, here she goes. Nope. I pressed the wrong mouse.
Over these last couple of weeks because I'm very determined not to get induced this time around. And I found this amazing article by Harold Fox called The Aging of the Placenta, which of course I will share on my Patreon account for you guys to be able to read. And he completely disputes this idea as a myth, you know, as something that is just like bad science that people have been saying for a very long time. And I want to go over, just like I highlighted a couple of things in this article that I wanted to go over, but he brings up some really, really solid points. First and foremost, he highlights the difference between senescence, like placental senescence, which is, by the way, senescence just means like aging that leads to deterioration, right? So like you're aging in a bad way, it's deteriorating. Think of like 80-year-old person's eyesight, it's aging in a bad way. And just maturity, which is totally different, right? So think of maturity. I feel like now I can only do gardening references because I'm very into gardening at the moment, but think of like, you know, you first plant seeds, it sprouts, it's not yet ready to harvest, it's not mature yet, but every step of that in between. Or maybe a better analogy would be the difference between an infant's heart and a teenager's heart, right? A teenager's heart has aged, their organs have aged, but not to a point of senescence. They're not deteriorating, they're actually just maturing, right? And he says that there's a lot of misunderstanding between those two topics, which is really fascinating, and he goes through all of the morphological changes that happen, and he says, you know, the placenta is just maturing during different stages of pregnancy, and that people associate the different looks of the placenta as if this means that the placenta is dying, and that couldn't be further from the truth. But the second thing that he says, and which I think is a genius point, I believe it was him that said this in this article. I've read 3 articles on this, but it was either him or a second article that I read, which I'm going to drop as well. They start talking about how bizarre it is that there's this idea that all women should give birth by 41 weeks. And they start...
Okay, so before she goes on, she did not drop in any other links in the Patreon. Anyone that wants to fact check me on that can look at her Patreon and see it for themselves. This paper was written in 1997. Anyway, the thing about it being bizarre that all women should give birth by 41 weeks was not in this paper. But I will let her continue.
Talking, either Harold or this other writer, about menstruation, right? Imagine how strange it would be if we said, you know, women get their period at the age of 13 years old. And if you don't get your period by the age of 13 years old, we're going to force you to get your period. And you would just go, that's seems really bizarre and crazy, because like there's obviously a range. There's got to be a range here, and there is obviously. I know girls that went into menstruation at as early as 11 years old, and I know girls that didn't go into menstruation until they're 15 years old, and none of that was considered weird because we just, our bodies develop and grow at different paces, all within the same range. Of course, you know, there's a range for puberty, but the idea that we would force that to happen because we have this idea that it must be down to a science. I mean, we're mammals. We can look to animals in the wild. You know, I think elephants are pregnant for about 2 years. years, which, by the way, sounds horrible. But it would be very bizarre if we said it's down to this day and it has to happen within this week, or every single elephant must be forced into induction, I guess we're closer to primates, right? If every single ape had to be forced to be induced because they didn't fall in within this 1 week range. And yet we do this with women. We just say you have 1 week and this is it. Maybe the women that took longer to menstruate in their teenage years are also the women that need a little more time. Like my sister, she did not look like she was ready to give birth at all when they induced her, my younger sister, as she was very high up, and it just didn't seem like she was ready to be induced. And we were told, like, oh, well, in our family, it takes a longer time, for the babies to bake. My mother had to be she actually had a C-section with all four of us, and I'm one of four. And my sister had to be induced. My other sister had to be induced. One of them was led to a C-section. And when her baby came out, he was very small. And she still says to this day he wasn't ready to come out. Like, he just wasn't baked. So it wasn't like there was any other issue for them to have forced her son out. I mean, he was 6 pounds and some ounces, and she said he just needed more time. Like, why was she not able to go to 42 weeks, which is really interesting. But of course, they just don't allow you to. And she...
Okay, the more I hear about her sister, the more I wonder how bad her health plan must be. Forced to give birth, has an underweight baby, gets the kid vaxxed, thankfully, and the kid is sick all the time regardless, since I think this is the sister that had the vaxxed kid with the 100 or so day-long cough. Now, that is if we take Candace at her word. And we of course know that she is an entirely unreliable narrator. So I can't speak to the truth of this. But it was interesting to note that she didn't mention her brother. Like, she caught herself before she could do that. And I assume that he told her to keep his name out of her mouth on these things.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I hope the kid is doing well. The paper that I linked to, by the way, doesn't make any of those comparisons. It only basically says that the placenta doesn't age the way that it was long thought to age, and that a further examination of it as time goes on should be constantly done whenever possible. Harold Fox, Dr. Harold Fox, who wrote the paper, was an expert doctor on the placenta, and basically study of the organ was his career, which started in the 1960s. He published the paper in 1997. So he had a 30-year career studying the placenta. And he continued working past that. Definitely an OG. Anyway, here's more Candace.
She is not, my sister, vaccinating her child. She put some space between it. So she, of course, especially with, again, like I said, with your first child, you want to trust the doctors, because you just don't know anything. I feel like the first pregnancy, it's like deer in headlights. So that was an interesting point. But then he brings up Harold Fox, and I've highlighted that, so I know that's definitely in this article. That it's conflicting information that is being provided to parents. You're being told that your placenta is insufficient, and yet the majority of babies that go past 42 weeks are really big, right? They start getting bigger and bigger and bigger. If your placenta was insufficient, your child wouldn't be growing. Your child would not be able to get bigger. Obviously, it's the placenta is the organ that provides for the oxygen and the nutrients. So if your placenta was aging and your placenta was rotting, so to speak, you would know this because your baby would be either losing weight or not gaining any weight at all. So I think these are really valid points that he brings up in talking about that, and not allowing that to be a reason that you suddenly think that you have to have your baby immediately. Again, I understand I'm not really giving you the best advice, because your doctor will say, then we're going to kick you out, which is also ridiculous, because you can just show up to the hospital with a baby. I'm giving birth right now, and any doctor would take you. But there's just a lot of, I think, misconceptions about that, which he brilliantly goes through in this article, and so I want to make sure that I share that, as well as another article that I read about that, because he makes some genius points. But I also want to specify that he does make it very clear in the article that there are different reasons why late-stage pregnancies can be problematic, and one being size, right? If the baby is absolutely becoming humongous, you are, of course, becoming at risk for solar dystocia, because it's difficult to get the baby out if you're having a natural birth. He also talks about the loss of amniotic fluid, which he states is not at all related to the placenta. So why the placenta is getting the bad rep doesn't make any sense. But he talks about that and how that can be problematic if that's actually happening. So again, just read the article in its entirety, but I did want to address that concept of placental senescence. And
yeah, read the article in its entirety based on the $64 article link that she gave people. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like, it's so fucking haphazard and lazy. Like, I found the PubMed article in no time flat. Like, she could have shared that one. Instead, I think she was just dumb enough to pay for it and wants other people to pay for it too. Knowing that most of the people that click on that, they're going to like, well, I guess I'll have to trust Candace because I can't afford $64 for a fucking article like this.
Yeah.
Squishy now wants to exit the chat. Give me a second here. Oh, you want to go out now? There you go. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, so before she goes on, she didn't really get it right. Yeah, she didn't really get it right, but she isn't totally wrong. In that last end bit, the observation being that the placenta doesn't die or wither is correct, but the mere fact that an overlarge birth can be an issue or that amniotic fluid can be lost, as well as any other large number of factors in post-term births can be issues. This might not be a placental problem, but it can become a health of the pregnant person and child problem very quickly. Yeah. These are further reasons why induction is a viable option, and for her to say otherwise is fucking absurd. Dr. Harold Fox did not write this paper to discourage induction. He wrote it to spur conversation and study about the life of the placenta as an organ. Next clip.
I watched a documentary before I gave birth the first time called The Business of Being Born. It was done by Ricky Lake, the old 90s Ricky Lake. Go Ricky, go Ricky. And she really talked about explored why doctors love induction so much. And it's because the more medical interventions, the more money that they make. Obviously, every single medical invention, everything that they can possibly give you at the hospital is something that they make money off of, and their dream ultimately is to have the C-section because that is what they make the most money on, is actually obviously performing what is a surgery, a very dangerous surgery to cut into you and pull a baby outside of you. So I want to get into the topic of my first birth story, and I've never shared the story, so I'm excited to share it with you guys all. Excited to share with you guys my birth story. Like, I've gotten so many people messaging me asking about it since I gave birth the first time, and I just never shared it, not because I didn't want to, but just because I hadn't.
Okay, so before she gets into that, the documentary that she mentioned, The Business of Being Born, was done by Ricky Lake. Yes, that Ricky Lake, like she said, from the 90s, former daytime talk show host Ricky Lake, and filmmaker Abby Epstein. I don't think she's related to Jeff Epstein, but I also don't want to know. The last time that I checked, it was still on Netflix. It makes a case for pregnant people to not give birth in hospitals or other medical settings, and to opt instead for births at home, including showing footage of home births, such as Ricky Lake's own home birth of her second child in her bathtub. Make of that what you will. I'm not watching it. I looked up critical takes on the film, and what I found was that medical providers took a lot of issues with how the medical profession is portrayed in the film, because it just paints the profession as being money-centered at best, which, let's be honest, our medical system in America is money-centric, because we keep voting away a decent socialized option for everyone. But what isn't taken into account much at all by these types of things are the simple facts that if there is a complication in the birthing process at all, a hospital is the best place to be for birth giver and child and family. The only persistent reason I have found in a lot of the information around this topic was pretty much what I expected to find, which is that many of the people in the home birth movement are also anti-vaxxers, and giving birth outside of a medical setting can keep them more secure in their wrong-headed beliefs. Now, Candace will justify herself getting induced, which, if I'm being fair at all to this fascist, is that while normal people and even people on the anti-fascist side of things would not give a shit about whether or not she was induced to give birth, she knows that her hardcore ride or die would in fact have questions. And maybe throw shade at her for talking down the entire induction process and then have it in her own past. My guess is that this is a minor example of Candace proving to maybe herself and the diehards that she gets ahead of scandals in her own life, so no one ever needs to bring them up or something. Anyway, here we go. Yeah.
Good touch of news.
Yeah.
Abby Epstein, not related.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Good to know. You looked that up?
Yep.
Okay, good. Not related to Jepstein.
Nope.
Okay.
Not related to the, as Google had said, not related to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
Okay, fair enough. All right, here's the next clip.
So this is the first time, and what I can tell you is that I was induced, and the reasons that I was induced are really because, quite frankly, I had denied everything else, and I felt like I had to agree to something. Again, I talk about that apprehension that first-time parents go through. So you can imagine being in my circumstance where I was so deep on the child vaccine stuff, and I had taken all of this time during my pregnancy to kind of say to my husband, hey man, we should really consider not doing vaccines. And that was kind of where I was spending all of my energy. I was the first person in my family to say no to vaccines. My sisters were pregnant the year before. They said yes to vaccines, one on delayed schedule, as I told you guys earlier.
Yeah, pausing this here for a second, because I want to note that the kid she says is having all sorts of problems with the long cough and problems she keeps talking about is the one on the delayed vaccine schedule, if we're following her version of events. The other one barely got mentioned in the previous episode where she talked about them. And the kid in need of help is the one with the delayed vaccine schedule. I can't say for sure that would be a cause of issues for the little dude. I'm just trying to follow her logic on all this shit.
Yeah.
You know? So here's the next one.
The other sister did it right on schedule. So I felt very, very much like I was already doing so much that was against the grain that I wasn't comfortable taking on too much as a first-time mother. And I remember sitting in the doctor's office. They had done the check for dilation, and we were just at 40 weeks, and he said, we don't let you go past, I think he said 41 weeks, 42 weeks, whatever. We don't recommend it. It's bad for the baby. It's bad for the mom. And I just said, okay, like, whatever. And he said, why don't we just schedule an induction? You might go into labor before it, but let's just schedule an induction for 40 plus 5, 40 weeks, 5 days. And I just said, okay, sure, and hoped and prayed that the baby would come before. And the baby didn't. And I also strangely felt that for whatever reason, because my sisters were both induced, I thought, oh, maybe I just have an issue and my body can't dilate, and that's the reason why I, am going to have to get induced anyways. Like my family, our cervix, our cervices, I guess you would say, cervixes plural would be like cervices, yeah. None of us have ever dilated, not even so we've all had to be induced, which...
Okay. Before anyone pulls the age card here, I looked up what the rate of induced birth is among women at different age ranges, and I'm including a link to the data found on evidencebasedbirth.com. And towards the bottom of this long and very informative article is the section titled, How Many Pregnant People 35 or older are induced or have cesareans? Cesarean, C-section, same thing. Overall, the rate goes 27%. Sorry, let me check this out. Okay. 27% of age 25 to 29. 25% are induced or have C-sections in the combined brackets of 30 to 34 and 35 to 39. So we can effectively say it's 25% in the age bracket of 30 to 39. And then it goes back up to 27% in the 40 to 54 bracket. So on average, about 25% of births are induced overall, 1 in 4. It is pretty common. Cesarean rates do increase with age, and it is in the same section if anyone wants to look at it. So honestly, it's really kind of a roll of the dice. You were C-section.
Yeah.
Because early on, you were 10 and a half fucking pounds when you were born.
Yeah.
3 weeks early, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's huge. I was working in a restaurant at the time, and my coworkers were like, "Oh man, so the kid, congratulations." I'm like, "Thank you." They're like, "How much did he weigh?" And it's like, 10 and a half pounds. They're like, "What the fuck?" Like, I was like, yeah, and 3 weeks early at that is C-section. Like, what the fuck? I said, yeah, another couple weeks, like, you'd have been a little, like chunky baby. Like, yeah, fucking, like, 10 and a half is already chunky enough. Like, yeah, well, I mean, what can I tell you? I don't know how to approach this any further. But, yeah, like...
It's a shame none of that duck,
You don't really want it to, yeah. Oh, it looks like one of my clips did not, make it over. Give me just a second here. Just a second. Oh, it's not it. Let me find my things. Okay, I'm just going to pause this right here. All right, and we are back. Yeah, so, let's hear the next clip here. Because I had to go pull it and send it to another machine, and now it's here. So here we go.
The other sister did it right on schedule.
Different one. My bad. Hooray, Audio Veritas.
Woo.
Eventually.
Just kind of insane. So I thought maybe it's just like hereditary, that we just will not go into labor naturally, which in saying that to you right now, it sounds really foolish. Like, I don't think there's such thing as a baby that just stays in there forever. But this was my thinking at the time. Again, I was more focused on standing up for myself on the vaccines. So I had a tremendously great pregnancy. I'm having a tremendously great pregnancy this time. And I also had a tremendously easy birth, a very surprisingly easy birth. And because I had watched that documentary that Ricky Lake put together called The Business of Being Born, I was very educated on the potential intervention. So I knew that the epidural would fight against the Pitocin, and I kind of went in there saying, I do not want to get Pitocin. I don't care how fast the hospital bed wants to be turned around. I know that it makes the contractions worse, and I know that it works against the epidural. There was a board in my hospital room, and it said, it was very kind, like, write down what your absolute no's are. And I wrote the Foley balloon, because every single girl I know that has had the Foley balloon used to help dilate their cervix has had a horrific, barbaric experience, and it's something that haunts them in their dreams. My sister was one of them. Another close friend of mine had really bad bleeding after it and was terrified and thought she had lost the baby somehow. And to me, it just sounds barbaric. The idea that you're going to put a balloon inside of me and expand it to force my body to dilate. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay. I will give Candace space on this one because I looked it up. I had never heard of Foley balloon induction before, but it does sound decent, actually. And most of the data on it is good, with only under 1% of patients experiencing issues. Most of the time, the issues have more to do with untrained staff inserting or removing the balloon than the actual practice itself. Basically, a medical grade balloon is inserted and filled slowly, then left in place for several hours or even overnight to try to make the body of the mother relax into proper positioning and be set for dilation without drugs. Once a patient reaches a 3 centimeter dilation, it is supposed to fall away. However, the stories she mentioned are real, and again, they have more to do with poorly trained staff than the procedure itself. But this is her body and her choice, and she made the call that she made for her own comfort. I'm not going to shit on that. No, not when she's doing so much other shit. No.
Yeah, it's one thing for her to make a decision for her body and her life, but to try and influence others into making the same not so great to horrible decisions is not a good thing.
No, and that's what I'm pushing back on here.
Yeah.
Is the fact that, like, look, if you feel this way about your own things, that's fine, but when you're being seen as a voice of, like, logic and reason to people that are scared, scared enough to believe a charismatic grifter that is ultimately, these days, trying to sell them a monthly fucking subscription. And even back then, if you think about it, her Patreon level starts, even now, starts at $20 a month. Yeah, if I'm remembering the levels right, it starts at $20 a month, and then it goes up from there to, I think, $35, $75, and $250 a month. Yeah, at the $250 a month level is where you get to interact with her once a month via a Skype or Zoom call, I guess now. But yeah, it's that's pretty fucky. Like,
yeah,
and like I said, I'd done the math on it previously, and she's still making quite a bit of money, even if like all but one of those people is at $20 a month. She's making the salary of a normal person just on that, just on a Patreon, to which she has not put up any new videos in 3 years. She took her old videos down. I know this because someone who got into the Patreon left a couple of comments. They were asking where the videos are because they couldn't find them anymore on the site, and they were like, I've been around here, can anyone direct me to these? And these comments, by the way, were still up there yesterday when I looked. And like, I think people were letting this person be in the wind about it. But again, these are just the comments you can see. Now, next week, I'm going to have to, if she actually talks about any links that are on the Patreon, I'm going to have to actually, like, I won't be able to provide those links. Here's the reason why. And we'll talk about it again, well, not next week, but in 2 weeks. We'll talk about it again there, but she locked out the links to free users of the Patreon for episode 11. So, yeah, I don't like, and that's been the case forever. That's been the case since I started doing this. So those links have just been permanently locked out unless you are paying $20 a month. Yeah. It's just, it's such scumbaggery. Like there's, I can't imagine what kind of person you have to be to, like, be into it. But yeah. So here's the next clip.
So I kind of went in there and said, I don't want to do any of this stuff. I was very fortunate that I got one dose of a Cervidil, I think it's called, and my water broke 2 hours later. And so my baby was, I feel he was really ready to come out. At the time, I probably would have had my water break naturally within the next 48 hours. But the show got started, and it was all very, very quick. And within, I think it was about 6 hours later, they came, they checked me. I was fully dilated, ready to push. One very interesting thing that did happen, and I should mention, by the way, I got an epidural. So as soon as my water broke, they were like, let's check you. Do you want to get an epidural? I said, why not? This was the worst part of labor, by the way. She missed 3 times. I don't know how that's possible. I obviously now know all of the risks that are associated with epidurals, and I'm not loving epidurals these days, but when she finally got it the 3rd time, she was a very cold anesthesiologist, and she did it 3 times, and I'm having contractions in the middle of it. My contractions were not that bad. They were completely manageable, and I had thought a lot about wanting to give birth naturally without any epidural, but in the moment of the water breaking and the excitement and people running in and saying, she's like, oh, now should be the time to do it, you have to decide now, I just said sure. They got the epidural in eventually, and I was fine. When I had the epidural, I was very, very strong on they put it in your hand and they say, you can just kind of make yourself more and more high and press this 4 times per hour, whatever it is. I only hit it, like, as soon as they gave me the dose that they gave me, I never hit it again, because I wanted to feel something. I feel like it would be really weird to be completely paralyzed and not feeling anything. So I decided to go with low level pain as opposed to going with I'm completely numb and high and the doctor is just telling me when to push. So I wanted to feel very much in control of the experience, and that was sort of the best that I could do, given the fact that I had made the decision to get an epidural, which again, not judging anybody that does. Some people have higher pain tolerance, lower pain tolerance. I know people that back labor. If I was back laboring, I'd probably be like, give me the drugs. But I did want as little medical intervention as possible going into it. Anyways, it came time to push about 6 hours after I got Cervidil, and this was the part that I thought was really strange. So the first time I pushed, he said, push again. I think it must have been the third push, and my husband was like, I see the head. Crazy, so fast. And the doctor said, oh, it's going to be a while. It's your first pregnancy. It's probably going to be an hour. And this was like minutes after, and suddenly my husband said, I see the head. So I was like, great. And then in the middle of like my husband saying that, the doctor, the obstetrician said, oh, well, the heart rate's dropping. And I thought that was a really strange thing, because I thought, it's been 3 minutes. Like, how is suddenly my baby's heart rate dropping? Like, is that even true? He's like, it's fine for now. We're not in the gray area. But like, his heart rate's dropping. And I suddenly got very nervous and thought, I got to push this baby out really quickly because I don't want a C-section. But I in the back of my head, I would always wonder if my doctor wanted to look for a reason to instantly give me a C-section, because I just don't see how my baby's heart rate could have been dropping so quickly after I had just started pushing. And
okay. The queen of do your own research, everybody. Okay, so I looked into whether or not this was a common thing. If the crowning or full appearance of a baby's head commonly comes with a drop in pressure for the infant. The answer is yes, it does. This is normal, and it would not have resulted in a C-section. I am including a link from a legal resource known as Birth Injury Center that explains this in more detail. But basically, blood pressure drops during pregnancy and birth can lead to all sorts of bad outcomes for the baby, and it's vitally important to keep an eye on it. Also included is a link to UT Southwestern Medical Center with a page on what fetal heart monitoring can and can't tell us. Included in the link stack is a page from the National Institutes of Health explaining shoulder dystocia and the methods for managing it during a live birth. At no point in that or other medical sources that I looked through, in none of them, was it referenced that a C-section would even come out on the table to play. Okay? This is because a C-section to deal with shoulder dystocia is the dumbest of dumb solutions. That would entail shoving the kid back inside and rolling the mother into an operating room. Now, if we are to believe Candace, then her doctors at every stage are terrible. But more likely, her idiot husband said something stupid and she misrecalled it at best. I am giving her some measure of grace because she was on a painkiller, under duress, and shit was probably a little crazy. But at no point would a C-section have been needed or viable. There are documented methods and techniques that any birth team should know to deal with dystocia. Now, for the record, okay, so shoulder dystocia is exactly what it sounds like. The baby's head comes out, maybe the neck comes out, but the shoulders are stuck inside. Okay? There are like I said, there are methods and techniques that any birthing team sees this on a regular basis. They know what to do. They just fall in line. It is a gentle maneuvering process to just get the child out. If the head has emerged, they're already, that they have access to oxygen. They just have to keep the mother calm and keep the situation calm and get the infant out. It is a regular thing. There is no need or call or reason for anyone to even say the word C-section in this case. That is not something that would come up. Now, going back to the drugs, I ran this story by your mom. Okay, I ran this by her last night. I was like, how plausible is this? Because I don't remember her ever talking about or having a drug pump.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, certainly not for your birth, but I mean, they did use morphine when you were being birthed. They did use morphine, but the anesthesiologist was standing right there, in control of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, she didn't want total bliss out of it. She wasn't looking to get high while you were being born. You know, she just wanted like some pain relief, and the man provided. And he had said, I was there when he was walking her through what he would do, how he would do it. He's very calm, very cool dude. He said he was from Sweden. He certainly had the accent, but yeah, he just he walked her through everything, and he was like, yeah, I use morphine for these reasons. And he gave them, and I don't know fucking otherwise. So I was like, yeah, all right, sounds like he knows what he's doing. Again, okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I asked her though. I was like, did you or anyone else have this kind of experience? And I kind of played the clip, and she goes, that is the stupidest, dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. She goes, no. She's like, in my experience, they set you up. They don't like they set you up with the epidural. It's a drip.
Mm-hmm.
And a trained person turns it up or down based on what you tell them at the time. They turn it up or they turn it down. You are not in control of that. The patient is not in control of that.
No.
And I had to point out to her, though, I was like, we're talking about an idiot that lives in Tennessee. Granted, this is all probably happening in Nashville, which is smarter. Like, I don't want to totally shit on people in Tennessee or people from Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
But y'all keep electing morons.
Yeah.
And I can't grasp that. So until you stop electing morons like Rand Paul, we can't have a serious discussion about your intelligence levels there. Any rate, so I was like, but the way that your mom explained it sounded really on point. And so I went and looked it up a little bit earlier today too, because I was like, maybe, just maybe, it's different in Tennessee. No, I could find no version of these kind of events where they're like, yeah, give the patient the control over the drugs going into their system while they're having a baby.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as always, I invite people to prove me wrong, in some way. Like, I can't just take your word for it. But if you can somehow prove that this is a standard practice in Tennessee or elsewhere, fuck, I don't care. Philadelphia, hit me up. I don't give a shit. But prove this version of events wrong, because until then, I'm going to have to go on the assumption that Candace is fucking lying. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because, as we've said before, she is an unreliable narrator at best, and I don't buy this shit one bit. So, moving on, her doctors sound worse. I think they have grounds to sue if she ever names them, unless they are really this inept.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on a second. Okay, so here we go. Second to last clip. Again, as I said, I think Candace's doctors have grounds to sue, based on everything we've already said. But also, if she ever names them, unless they are really this inept.
In which case, she would have grounds to sue.
Yeah, here we go.
And what ended up happening was I pushed, then I was just pushing with all my might. My husband saw the head, and my son was ready to come out at 20 minutes. So it was very, very quick, and the doctor wasn't even ready. And he said, "Oh my God, I'm not ready." And then he kind of put on his stuff and was like, "I didn't expect it to be this quickly." And, I pushed my son out, and he instantly latched. It was just an amazing experience. My husband and I felt like we cheated because everything went so smoothly and so easily. But I just always felt in my heart that part was a little weird. And maybe it was because I had watched that documentary called The Business of Being Born, by the way. If I haven't said its name, it's called The Business of Being Born, and it was done by Ricky Lake. And I just thought she really shows you how every obstetrician just wants to get you into a C-section because that's what they're the most comfortable doing. They're not midwives. They're not, they don't specialize in that. They just want to get the baby out. And
okay, this is true somewhat. So the documentary does present that view, but it notes that hospitals and medical people in general prefer C-sections because they can be scheduled and they are predictable and things generally go how they are supposed to go. I know this from a lot of reviews, a lot of medical reviews that I read on it. Again, I did not watch it, but I trust the opinions of doctors that were like, this is true and it's fucked up and here's why. Anyway, all of this, they prefer C-sections because they're predictable and things generally go how they are supposed to go. Yours certainly did. We knew the time. We knew about how long it would take. Everything went smoothly. I remember telling people when I got into work the next day, and they were like, "Oh, how'd everything go? That was quick." And I was like, "Oh, C-section." They're like, "Oh, that's so nice." The women were like, "Yeah, I didn't want to do that." And then with my second kid, that's how we did it. And then every time after that, I was like, "Let's just schedule it." It's yeah, absolutely. But
especially if you're one of those parents who sit back and they schedule. There's a lot of parents that I've met at previous jobs, especially working in fucking customer service.
Yeah.
They come through and the mother's obviously pregnant.
Yeah.
Or they've obviously got a little fucking gremlin running around the store.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yeah, no, everything went so smoothly. We planned it out on this day. It happened on this day at this time, and it all runs out to that." And whenever they say they didn't get a C-section, it's surprising because it's like, well, then your kid came exactly on time, but fuck, that's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, then you've got some labors that go multiple hours. Yeah. I mean, but yeah, things like induction and shit, this is all generally discussed with parents ahead of time. Now, one of the more telling things in all of this is earlier in this episode, I know you had caught it earlier because I saw your face when she said it, but she was like, "Yeah, I didn't go to all of my appointments." And it's like, who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you to give anyone advice when you didn't even I mean, granted,
you're to make it.
Yeah, and if her story is to be believed, her doctor was a quack anyway. It's then you find a doctor that isn't, that you want to go see every, week or so. It's impossible to understand her sometimes. It's a fucking enigma. Anyway, so, hospitals wanting to schedule C-sections so that they're plannable and shit. That makes sense because this is good for hospital turnaround time and money management.
Yeah.
This is the kind of result that one can expect in a profit-driven healthcare system. And Candace not having any kind of insurance really and paying her doctor cash, for concierge medicine, you get what you pay for, I guess. I mean, the fuck. Except I don't think, I would love to know how much she's actually spending, for this because, a country like Norway, right? Norwegian healthcare, and I've learned this from speaking with Norwegians about it. Norwegian healthcare basically costs everyone in the country a flat fee of $2,000 a year. If anything happens to you, you're covered. You go to the fucking hospital. No one approaches you about costs.
You're just taken care of.
Yeah, you're just taken care of. If you have to give birth, and I've heard this from people on the Life in Norway podcast, like foreigners that went to Norway with their spouses or whatever, even if they weren't like Norwegian citizens yet, they give birth, and there's no cost. No one approaches them about anything. This is, and in America, that's like a $10,000 operation.
Yeah.
They just go there, they're seen to, they're dealt with, they're given aftercare, the whole works, and no one says a fucking thing. There's no accounting office you got to go deal with. Like, it's incredibly cool, and of course it sets people up to feel okay with having a kid, because they're not entering the world having a kid with a mountain of debt. Now
it removes the price tag from childbirth.
Yeah. And it's like, if you've got that sort of system, and this includes, like, if there's any complications, doesn't matter. Nothing, no cost matters. Like, I think the most that anyone said that they had to spend was the husband for this one woman stayed in a hotel at the hospital, and the only thing that they had to cover before they left was the cost of his meals. His meals were comped until the end. Yeah. Like, they were, and they weren't just like kicked out the next day. They had her stay a couple of days just to make sure that everything was fine. She was given bonding time with the child. Like, everything was as it should be for this birth. The dad was able to come and go. Like, they gave him paid time off from his job. Like, they were like, oh, you're having a baby? Cool. Get out of here for a few days. Let us know if there's any complications. You stay out as long as you need to. Enjoy your new family.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And the same idiots like Candace fucking Owens will go and rail against companies being forced to have to deal with this shit like this, like Norway does, like a lot of other European countries do. They will rail and cry and scream. And they don't realize that is why people aren't having kids, is because idiots like them are running the show. It's fucking stupid. It's fucking absurd. Ugh.
Shit, that makes me feel better about the thought of going to a butler school in Norway.
Yeah, well, the one you were looking at was in Denmark, but yeah. I mean, not that far,
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I have been learning Norwegian on the back end. Just because if there's a country I want to escape to with y'all, it's fucking Norway. Yeah. And knowing the language, at least one of us knowing the language ahead of time, helps get you through citizenship. Yeah, I have learned a lot about Norway. And generally, honestly, dude, 6 months of winter, that sounds great. I mean, we moved to Minnesota, where there's like 4 to 6 months of winter any given year, and fuck me if that isn't our favorite time.
God, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's lovely to wake up in the morning to snow.
Well, to the snow, to just the chill in the air, like.
Yeah.
I love the sound of it crunching underfoot, like. That first year really spoiled us, though, where we had like 6 months of straight winter. Because we got so used to like driving through, when it started to melt, it was weird. It was like, what is this? What the fuck is going on?
Waiting for spring to start, and then it snowed again.
Yeah, then it snowed again. Yeah, it's like, I mean, and we get a false spring here every year too. But yeah, it's. I swear though, there were piles of ice that didn't melt until July.
Yeah.
Some of the areas that I was in, Fucking crazy. All right, folks. So here is the... I gotta finish the script here before we go to the last clip. So, yeah, like I said, Candace is, in a way, acknowledging the obvious fault of our system being profit-driven. But she is now going to say shit that I've only heard wealthy people say. Okay, she is going to talk about midwives.
Now that I'm going into my second birth, I read when you get in late-stage pregnancy, you just love consuming as many birth stories as humanly possible. And now that I'm going into my second birth, I always say to my husband, I think I want to do a completely natural birth, like just completely unmedicated. And my only hiccup with that is that I know a few women that have had shoulder dystocia, and that makes me very nervous. But at the same time, the women that have had that experience shoulder dystocia had other factors that could have contributed to it. So that's only really been my only hang up about that, is that if you are facing shoulder dystocia, I had a woman that used to work with me that had that, and again, she was induced, so that could have been a reason for that. Her baby wasn't ready to come out. But I just think that in those moments, the idea of not being in a hospital that could intervene makes me very nervous. But I am inching more and more toward believing that I could have a birth with no medication at all. I was total, like I said, I was in total control of my contractions. I was not in too much pain. My child came very quickly. Of course, obviously, like as you progress in the pregnancy, it would have been a long 6 hours. So I'm not pretending it's like something that's very easy. But I do think that I'm starting to realize that we as women have been sort of conditioned to not believe in our bodies in the same way, not believing in our instincts when it comes to our children, not believing in our bodies when we give birth, constantly being told that something could go wrong, something will go wrong unless you hand off all of your responsibilities and trust into the medical system. And that feels really wrong to me. So again, I am one of those people that I'm a big believer that if you had a baby and I don't care what, if you chose to have a C-section, if you ended up in a C-section after 55 hours of labor, if you did an epidural, if you didn't do an epidural, if you did a home birth, you have a healthy baby, you cannot be hard on yourself. That is always the ultimate goal, is to have a happy baby, have a healthy baby. But I did just want to open up the discussion because it feels important and it feels relevant, because we've kind of just handed off so much of our belief in ourselves instead to the medical establishment. And it's important that we just sort of openly talk about these topics. And by the way, when I see women that give birth and they're like giving birth at home, which I, by the way, would never do, even if I went all natural, I would go to a midwifery. But it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. There's something about it that is so incredibly beautiful and inspiring and empowering, and I think it's wonderful that they've done it, and I do not think that I will leave this earth without having done it once. And so that's where my heart is, and that is why I wanted to share my birth story with you guys for the very first time. This is a bonus episode. I'm dropping 2 episodes this week because I felt badly that I didn't drop an episode last week as I had promised to do. So here's one. It's just me sharing my birth story, not going over any of the Q&As or anything like that. And then on the next podcast, which I will be dropping alongside this, episode 11, we're going to jump back into the vaccines, and we are doing the flu shot. All right, guys, I will talk to you then.
I almost forgot she was covering vaccines.
Yeah, not this week. So it should be noted here that she said all of that shit about midwifery and maybe having a home birth and shit. She said all 4 of her kids in a hospital. Mm-hmm. And she had the second child, her daughter, the day after this went live on air. So, anyway, maybe the next one will be done at home, or the one after that.
At a midwifery.
Yeah, something. Who knows? So yeah, that was that was a bit much. Like,
Whenever I hear the mention of natural birth, I always think about Community when Shirley's going through having her her second or third child.
Yeah, and
Rhoda's in her ear going, natural birth, some women even achieve states of orgasm, and she's like, I don't know, you shouldn't be doing that on a child's head.
Yeah. Now the thing that really sucks about that is Shirley's husband was played by the recently departed actor that played Theo Huxtable, Malcolm Jamal Warner.
Oh.
Yeah. Damn. So he will not be around for the Community movie whenever that happens. Everybody said it's on pause right now. Like, it is going to happen, but it's on pause right now. But in other news, I don't know if you'd heard this, but the actor Keith motherfucking David, yeah, they announced at Comic-Con that he's getting his own Rick and Morty spinoff.
Oh.
Yeah, his character,
the
president, yeah, is getting his own Rick and Morty spinoff. And one of the actors from Community, Jim Rash, the guy that played the Dean, is going to be one of his assistants. So, yeah.
That's going to be great.
Yeah, that should be a very, very good, very funny show. I'm looking forward to watching that eventually, because his president character is just fucking hilarious. The shit they had him doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's got all of the secret tech programs that he's trying to keep up with Rick with, and Rick keeps going, I did that like a decade ago, right?
Yeah.
If those shrinking pills are what I think they are, you could get a less dangerous cancer-licking uranium.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about tonight's soda. What do we got tonight? Where is it from? Is this Russia?
Yes, that was at least the direct translation was Russian, so I'm going to assume so.
Okay.
It is called Crown of the Lakes.
Okay.
I could not get an ingredients list for it because the labeling for it is kind of double printed and very small.
Yeah, I see that.
So I couldn't get a clear, English version of it.
Well, this is a huge bottle.
Yeah.
This is like 24 ounces easily.
Yep. It is non-alcoholic, no traces of alcohol. That's about all I was able to get.
Yeah. Well, let's crack these open. Now, these are a twist top. So.
What in the hell? There we go. Got it.
Interesting smell. All right, I'm going to pour mine up a little bit. I'm not going to pour the whole thing up because if it sucks, I don't want to have a whole glass of suck.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right, let me give it
a... It kind of looks like a carbonated tea.
Yeah, it smells a lot like the Taiga Forest one.
Yeah. I mean...
It's got that piney scent to it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the imagery on the bottle, too, it does have, like, the Taiga forest trees that the other one did.
Does it? I mean, I'm seeing, like... Yeah, I mean, it's got pine trees on the label, yeah. So,
yeah.
All right, well, let's give this a shot.
Yep.
Mine's a bit flat, but it tastes a lot like the other one.
Yeah, it tastes a lot like the Taiga.
Yeah, I mean it's not bad. It's not to say it's bad at all.
No.
Like I rather liked the Taiga Forest one, but it did have more fizz and more body to it. So
yeah, this one's more like a cane sugary sort of.
Yeah, it's very syrupy.
Yeah, well, the other one was a Ukrainian one, so maybe this is just a Russian recreation of it?
No, that one was Russian. We had two.
Taiga Russian?
Yeah, the Taiga was Russian. Yeah, we had two Russians and we had two Lithuanians. The Lithuanian ones were the kvass, the bread sodas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now this is... And sodas go flat here a lot faster than that. Up there. It feels weird to say up there because I'm at a higher elevation here, but I'm down from there.
I can tell you mine went flat almost immediately. So I think it might...
Mine is... Yeah, mine's going flat fast.
Yeah, there's I mean, it could just be the age of the soda, who knows? But,
could be, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very syrupy. It's very sugary.
Oh, yeah.
I'm definitely not finishing this bottle. I'm going to have what I can have. I'm going to use the sugar boost to upload this episode and shit, but yeah, the drain in the kitchen is going to be seeing at least half of this thing.
Yeah,
it's weird when it's flat. It's just it has that It has that cola back end taste when it's flat.
It's like the difference, like that Tiga, and I'm sure this is probably meant to be a Tiga.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between Coke and Pepsi.
Yeah.
You know?
I prefer the other one, for sure. This is one. The other one is more Pepsi. This one is definitely more Coke to my mouth. Mm-hmm. Or it's like an off-brand Coke.
Oh yeah.
You know, like a store, like a store version, like
a Great Value Coca-Cola.
Yeah, yeah. Great Value Cola, or God, Walmart had. They actually had one that I liked because it was weird. Was there's not a lot of shit that I like about Walmart, but they did have their Dr. Pepper knockoff was called Dr. Thunder. I rather like Dr. Thunder. I really like Dr. Thunder. It had a uniqueness to it, and it was super cheap. Like, you could pick up a 2-liter for a long time for like 98 cents. So, you know, when you're working at Walmart and not making much money, you know...
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, a 2-liter Dr. Thunder is going to be good for a couple of days after you crack it open. So, you know, there was plenty there to like, live off of that. And, like, I mean, for $2, if you knew what you were doing, you could get, like, a 2-liter of shitty soda and a couple of ramen cups, you know, and have a more nutritious lunch than eating nothing.
Yeah.
You know, I still hate Walmart, but yeah, I
gotta say, the fucking Marchon, right up there with fucking Arizona green tea, and remaining somehow the cheapest fucking option for lunch at any job I've ever worked.
Let me tell you something.
You can reliably go down the fucking Asian aisle and go, Marchon, 98 cents. Employee discount? That's 96 cents.
Right. Well, let me tell you something, though. You know, the company that makes the super spicy noodles, Boldak, they started making chips recently.
Oh.
I got my hands on the habanero lime chips.
Oh.
They are weak sauce.
Oh.
Yeah. They're not great. They're not great. And the sample person that was sampling them out, I was like, do people think these are spicy? Like, I would just want to know. It's like, a lot of people, it's like, it's been really mixed. Like, some people will try them and just go, oh no, and they'll go run and spit it out. But then I see people that just, you know, kind of eat them with no effect, like you just did. And I was like, yeah, I mean, like, look, I'll admit I'm a chili head, but, like, these barely even taste good, to be honest with you. I expected more. Like, I have a high degree level of respect for this company. And these chips kind of suck. She's like, yeah, even the people that, you know, had a problem with the heat, but kind of went through it, were like, yeah, no, there's no, like, so I think I've only had a couple of people actually say, yeah, that tastes fine, but then they had other complaints, like the texture of the chip. I was like, yeah, I could see that. Like, their rough cut potato chip, it's a shitty product. It's a really shitty product, and there's like 3 or 4 flavors, and I don't want to try the other ones because I had high hopes for the habanero lime.
Yeah.
Like, how do you fuck that up? Like, this should be a formula by now. Ugh.
That's pretty much the minimum for any jalapeno anything, is some form of chili and lime flavored thing.
Yeah, like, give me, like, if it's habanero, okay, make it a slow burn. Like, I eat the chip and then I feel it, you know? But yeah, I got fuck all out of it. I was so disappointed. I was like, well, I'm glad I sampled this before I bought a bag or some shit. I mean, that's why the sample people exist, I suppose. But
yeah. Okay,
well, let's cut this off, and the next time that we record, you'll be back here in Minnesota.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're coming back in a few days, yeah?
Yeah. I leave here on the 4th, and then I'm back home on fed.
Okay. All right on. Cool. All right, well, let's cut this recording. Bye, y'all.
Goodbye, y'all. See you in 2 weeks.
Yup.